this video, I'm going to share with you how I store my worm castings. First of all, the best thing to do with worm castings is to use them right away. However, oftentimes we end up getting excess material, or we are in the middle of winter, so you are producing a lot of worm castings, but you're not able to use them right away. So in this video, I'm going to share with you some best practices on how to store your worm castings and how to keep them vital. In the last section of this video, I discussed how to make instantaneous worm tea to really benefit from a lot of the enzymes in vermicompost like chitinase that can actually help you control pests in your garden. So stay tuned for that. One of my favorite ways of storing worm castings is by using the same lateral flow or migration that I use to harvest my worm castings. So what you see here is a regular plastic bin. You have a mesh divider, and then you have the feeding zone. But most of this area, it's really leaves, because leaves or brown materials, they really help the decomposition process to stay aerobic, making sure there's air circulation, making sure that I'm not going to have smells and other kinds of things forming here. But this is where a lot of the activity, a lot of the frenzy around sugar and fresh food scraps is going to take place. This is where the castings that have already been processed, this is where they live. And I usually harvest directly from here to dissolve into worm tea. Keeping the worm castings in the same area allows for that microbiology, a lot of that frenzy, that high microbial activity that's taking place in the feeding area to actually travel here, and that keeps this material vital, alive, because there is microbial activity, there is energetic exchange. The value of worm castings comes from the fact that it's living fertilizers. It's the microscopic life in that material that really delivers the most nutritional and enzymatic value to your plants. Once a group of microorganisms feeds on another, there is that transfer of energy. That transfer of energy, that activity is what actually gives a lot of the value that we appreciate in worm castings. The other benefit of this system is that if something goes wrong here, this becomes too acidic or too hot, the worms have this whole area where they can travel and they can chill here. And you see worms are still here because these areas are still active. Hey, do me a favor, please click like and subscribe to my channel and share this information, share this video with folks that are gonna benefit from getting this information. The other thing that I do every now and then when I'm storing worm castings for a long period of time, I feed that section of the bin some juice pulp. So here's, I made some juice this morning. So the juice pulp or blended food, when you add a little bit to the vermicompost that you're storing, what it does is reactivates the enzymatic activity. So it really gives the microbes something to chew on, something to continue to break down. And in that process of breaking down the material, that's the energetic exchange that really helps you gain value in vermicompost as an organic fertilizer. Now, because I'm just adding a very small amount of liquefied vegetable matter that is going to blend in very nicely with the vermicompost, I don't have to worry about having solid food scraps in this area in case I need to harvest some of it right away or tomorrow or later on. Because what you want to do when you store worm castings is you want to keep it active. You want to keep the microbiology and the worms to continue to interact with that medium, because that's the real value of this material. This mesh really keeps it separate, but it allows the worms to travel back and forth. I usually put cardboard on top of this because that helps prevent the material from drying up. Because another thing that will kill microorganisms is just the system drying up too much. See, there's a lot of leaves. I love leaves because they really create nice air pockets. See, all these leaves, this is carbon material. They help break down the food scraps. They feed the microorganisms. They create habitat for the microorganisms. In the description of this video, I'm going to include a link for another video where I explain how to use leaves, how to process them, how to store them, so you don't have to worry about introducing invasive worms into your vermicomposting operation. The temperature in this side is a lot warmer than over there, but it's not hot. It's still pretty comfortable for worms. And now when I add this juice pulp, he's gonna warm up again, but because it's only a section of the bin that is gonna warm up, it's not gonna put it in a situation where worms are not gonna be able to deal with it. I am burying everything to make sure that there's no any food waste exposed that would attract flies or create fruit fly problems. And it also makes sure that the microorganisms in the bin will attack that material right away, because all of it will be exposed to the ecosystem that is already in place. So this is how I store my worm castings. It's a really effective way. The divider mesh, you can actually keep on moving it to the point that you can have 3/4 of the bin filled with worm castings that are already processed, and you have that little section where you keep adding food. And what that allows is just for the whole system to stay more active, to stay more vital, and you're able to store the worm castings without losing their fertility, because the castings either dry or the food runs out in that material. One of my favorite ways to use the vermicompost is dissolving it into water and making instant vermicompost tea. I like doing it this way because I don't have to use an air pump to oxygenate the water. I just use the vermicompost straight out of the bin. And I am using vermicompost almost before it is finished. The peak in enzymatic value of vermicompost is usually highest around day 26. So before everything is completely homogeneous and broken down, that's when that material actually has the highest content of enzymes. And this is why, because microorganisms and worms themselves, they are pouring enzymes on top of the material in order for them to break it down. What I find is that this is very practical, because I don't have to handpick worms out. I just add a handful of vermicompost into a strainer and just sift it in water very gently. This is very quick, is very effective, and once I'm done sifting, I simply put that material back into the vermicompost to continue breaking down. So you have like an early harvest, and you're really able to get a lot of nutrition out of that material. All right, so this is water that has been sitting around for at least 24 hours. I usually like to do it more around 48 hours. And the point here is you want to let the water sit uncovered to allow the bleach that comes in tap water to evaporate. So that way, when you sift the vermicompost into that water, it's not going to kill all your microbes. The other thing that I do, I usually add a little bit of vinegar, white vinegar, and a little pinch of sea salts. So the vinegar is going to make the water more neutral, because tap water tends to be a little bit more acidic. I would say a teaspoon in 5 to 10 gallons of water. And then I add a pinch of sea salt to add more trace minerals that may be low in the vermicompost, so just kind of bring everything up to a nice level. You don't want to add a lot of salt, you just want to add just a pinch, just to make sure that if there were any levels missing in the vermicompost, that you're going to get all your trace minerals. You don't have to worry about your worms drowning, because worms can actually abstract oxygen from water. So as long as the water it has oxygen in it, they are not gonna die if for whatever reason one of your worms kind of washed into the water. They're just gonna end up in your houseplants, and that's completely okay. One of the benefits of vermicompost is that it has enzymes like chitinase, and this is a type of enzyme that actually breaks down the exoskeleton of insects. So the plants are able to absorb some of these enzymes, and then they use it as a defense mechanism. Vermicompost is not a pesticide. The nutritional value as well as the enzymatic content is going to give your plants a wide range of tools and strength to fight off insects and other pests. So now that you know how to store worm castings, what you need to do next is learn how to amplify, how to maximize the microbial capacity and the microbial diversity of your worm castings by using biocharge. So click on that video and watch it.